You've heard about pharmaceutical companies that sell opioids being sued by the Department of Justice for illegal marketing. I helped send a pharma CEO to jail, and the government recovered $2 billion for taxpayers. I went from drug rep to whistleblower, and this is the story, and I'll suggest some policies for change. I spent 16 years as a pharmaceutical sales rep, a drug rep, with a lot of pay and responsibility, but no formal education in healthcare. I just want you to hear that. I was a trusted advisor, influencing how medications are prescribed. I was extensively trained to believe I was the expert, but all of my training came from the companies I worked for. For example, when I started promoting opioids for pain, we were taught that there was very little risk of addiction when opioids were taken for pain, less than 1%. Sadly, that minimized the risk, which is closer to 10 times that. I trusted that I was sharing solid science with my doctors, and that pharmaceutical marketing is extensively regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. It is, if you consider strictly regulated as meaning that they review just a fraction of the sales and marketing materials. In 2003, I was recruited to work for the leader in pain management for selling opioids, Purdue Pharma, the maker of OxyContin. We were taught that expanding the use of opioids for pain would reduce suffering. We convinced doctors to broadly expand their prescribing for all types of chronic pain because we were convinced. Opioids are important medications for serious pain when their benefits outweigh their risks. But Big Pharma's promotion of opioids, it crossed the line. It was more about profits for the industry than it was about what was best for patients. The OxyContin marketing plan was so aggressive that it sparked an opioid crisis, which led to the beginning of the drug overdose epidemic that we have today. When I heard about a pharmaceutical company, a new company that was launching a groundbreaking treatment for opioid use disorder, addiction to heroin or prescription painkillers, I thought, there's a place where I can make a difference, contribute to a solution to a public health developing crisis. I was thrilled when I got a job selling Suboxone, the brand name for buprenorphine. It's a type of opioid that has a reduced risk of overdose, and it was meant to mainstream the treatment of opioid use disorder into regular medical care outside of just specialized clinics like methadone clinics, so that more people would seek out access to treatment. But for many years, there were not enough Suboxone providers for the demand. Many doctors were charging cash for the office visit, not participating in insurance, which limited who could afford to get treatment. People were selling Suboxone on the street, buying and selling it because they couldn't afford a doctor or just couldn't find one. I spoke out in meetings and I wrote memos. I said, we need to focus on helping more doctors get enrolled in insurance and participate in insurance to increase access. But I recall being told that affordability and even all cash practices were not our problem to solve. It has been publicly documented that pharmaceutical companies selling both addiction medicine and pain medications created internal lists of pill mills, problem prescribers, supposedly so that we could avoid selling to those doctors. But my company sent patients that called the Suboxone helpline to some of the doctors on the problem list. Let me repeat that. According to the Department of Justice, the drug manufacturer sent some patients through its own patient referral line to doctors that they knew were prescribing inappropriately. What was our responsibility as drug marketers? Media reports have also shown that other pharmaceutical companies were ignoring pill mills. Didn't we have a duty to warn of unsafe prescribing? So when I was called into a meeting with a corporate attorney, I thought, great, finally they want to hear about my concerns. After all, I was a senior sales representative after 7 years with the company. I was top ranked in my district. My manager had just given me an award. I left the long meeting thinking that my candor would help improve our marketing compliance. So later that year, when I was abruptly fired, I was shocked. They wouldn't say why. I was devastated. But then I thought back. I remembered the company had told us they were under federal scrutiny. Now, they said everything was fine, but they were hiring more compliance staff and attorneys like the one I'd met with. I believed that they thought I was a whistleblower or was helping someone who was. So a friend suggested I talk to some attorneys who were experts in health fraud. They told me that some of the things that I had been trained to do promoting Suboxone had felt wrong to me because they were illegal marketing. It was hard to accept that the company that I had been so passionate about, that we believed that together we were fighting the stigma against addiction in medicine, had a dark side. The company worked with me to file a False Claims Act lawsuit. This is a type of whistleblower lawsuit you file on behalf of the federal government when you have inside information about illegal activity or possible fraud involving health taxpayer dollars. It wasn't an easy decision. It involved months of work, years of follow-up. I didn't know if I would be blacklisted from other jobs. And I worried that professionals I respected, physicians I had worked closely with, colleagues I had worked closely with, that they would think I had turned my back on them or on a life-saving addiction medicine. I did get another job as a drug rep, but the experience changed me. I decided I wanted to focus on public health, and I began going to graduate school at night. Academic research opened my eyes. I learned that there are other models of educating physicians that take the sales messages, the commercial bias out of clinical education. I learned that many pharmaceutical companies are abusing the patent and regulatory system in order to keep profits high and avoid competition. For example, Suboxone was initially approved as part of a group of medicines that were not expected to make a profit. However, it became a blockbuster, what the industry calls a drug that's expected to make $1 billion a year. And it did make more than $1 billion a year. But those profits were in danger. So the company created a different delivery system, a fast-dissolving strip called the Suboxone film strip. Unfortunately, they also created a public health campaign that used misleading marketing. They said that the Suboxone strip was less likely to be abused or sold on the street. They also said that the film strip packaging had a mechanism to deter children from being accidentally poisoned if they got into their parents' medicine. I had complained to my managers about this exaggerating marketing, but I didn't see any changes. I don't know if that's what led to the company making the decision to remove me from my position, but I do know that we have a responsibility as drug marketers. After 6 years, the Department of Justice announced a 28-count criminal indictment in the Suboxone case. They joined my whistleblower case and 5 others, several former colleagues and 2 outside physicians. Let me just emphasize that they went beyond the civil case and filed a criminal case. The companies, a parent company and the spin-off division, decided to settle. The case did not go to trial. It resolved these three key allegations: that the company had put illegal roadblocks in the way of generic competitors in order to avoid competition, causing taxpayers to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in overpayments. The drug manufacturer knowingly promoted the drug to physicians that were breaking federal regulations around prescribing or prescribing carelessly. And they lied to health plans about the accidental child poisoning data to make it seem as if the Suboxone film was safer for households that had children than the tablet form that was about to go generic. In fact, it was not. In addition to the $2 billion, a subsidiary of the company pled guilty to a felony, and 2 top executives pled guilty to misdemeanors and served 6 months in jail. The judge said that he thought this would set an example for pharmaceutical companies. But will it? When the company resolves a huge settlement and also rewards the CEO with a multi-million-dollar bonus, and this has also happened in other companies involved in opioid litigation, doesn't it seem like the industry is just saying that paying government settlements, huge fines, is just the cost of doing business? I wish that more people in the industry would come forward and talk publicly about the problems with pharmaceutical marketing. Now, many of us have signed non-disclosure agreements as part of our employment. Some people, even if they've left the industry, are afraid of getting sued or losing their current jobs. I get it. In fact, this is a disclaimer my attorneys asked me to include in this talk, and they asked me to be sure that all the information I shared with you today is available in public documents. Look, it's not easy to stand here and say that I was part of the problem, but what if people who worked in the industry shared their experiences in order to push for change? We could make a difference with these 3 policies. First, enact clear standards for a duty to warn of pill mills or unsafe prescribing, and if the employees don't do it, hold top executives accountable. Second, require occupational licensing, like all other workers in healthcare, which have requirements for continuing education and an ethics code. Holding pharmaceutical reps to a consistent standard and requiring that at least some of their continuing education come from independent, non-biased sources would at least improve the standards that we have, which don't exist in terms of formal regulation. The person that cuts your hair, the person that paints your nails has to have some kind of licensing and certification. Shouldn't the person that advises your doctor on the medicines you take also have to have that as well? 2 states and several cities have enacted pharma rep licensing, so a federal law could require this in all 50 states. And third, bring hidden marketing out into the open. In 2010, we passed a Sunshine Act that requires pharmaceutical payments be put in a database online. We can also disclose pharmaceutical sales and marketing pieces on that same database. Now, the industry says that this material is proprietary. They don't want competitors to see it. But really, they have already given it out to physicians, to nurses, to pharmacists. At that point, they have made it public. If we put those materials online, then healthcare researchers, journalists, patient advocates could see it. We could crowdsource some of the scrutiny. I bet we'd see fewer misleading sales messages that potentially cause public health harms. I became a drug rep because I thought pharmaceutical marketing could improve pain management and addiction treatment. But industry's drive for profits took priority over what was best for patients. We could, of course, file more False Claims Act lawsuits to hold Big Pharma accountable. But we need to be more proactive before misleading messages cause harm. We can enact clear standards for a duty to warn of unsafe or problem prescribing. We can require medical sales reps be licensed. And we can remove the hidden marketing and make it more visible. I tried to make a difference by changing careers. I'm now a researcher in pharmaceutical marketing, public health, and addiction policy. I hope that you'll make a difference as well. You can call your legislators, your policymakers, and you can ask them to enact more public health oversight over pharmaceutical marketing. Thank you.